Alright, welcome back to the next part in our tutorial series on procedural planet generation in Unreal Engine 5. This time we're going over putting ice at the poles above the equators, like the North Pole and the South Pole, the Antarctic and all that jazz. We're going to go over some issues that we've discovered with using world position offset, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But before then, let's get started with the shader, because that's some progress is better than no progress. Without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so good news and bad news. Bad news is we got to change some things. Good news is we can fix it, but let's just show you what I was talking about with world position offset. So in our shader, we're using world position offset to set the elevation of the terrain. As you can see, like the mountains and whatnot being up higher than the rest of the land. And this is actually a problem because if you go into the lit and you show wireframe, the terrain doesn't actually change. It's actually just moving like pixels, not really, but you know what I mean, on the GPU, and it's in the shader and the material itself. So it doesn't update the actual position of the vertex, which is the little points that the mesh is made out of. That's a problem for collisions and a bunch of other things. So we're gonna have to rebuild that probably later on. It might not be this video, but what we can do is we can still do the ice at the poles because that's in the material and that won't affect like the elevation of anything unless you want to get super technical, but we don't. So what we're gonna do is open up our terrain material and zoom that out, bring that over there. Okay, so this is what we're working with for our planet material. I believe we have an instance of this. So what we want to do is put ice at the top of the planet and the bottom of the planet. And in order to do that, we can use a form of masking and using kind of like world space. So we're going to use the world space of the object to determine where we put that white snow slash ice shader. So first we're going to start with our our color vector. We want this to be blue, so let's put a 1 there. So you can think of RGB as XYZ, and a 1 on the Z value, meaning blue, would be up, and that will be the top of our planet. So we're going to use that. We're going to do what do you call it, to world space, which actually we want to transform. Just transform. Okay, yeah. So if you type in transform, you'll get transform vector tangent space to world space, and that's exactly what we're looking for. If we preview this, we get that. Let's do a component mask. We just want blue. Let's see if that starts to do what we're looking for. There we go. So you can see this gives us the top, and we'll be able to control roughly how much of the top that is in a little bit. That'll be our next step. Alright, so now we're gonna do a little multiply node, and we're gonna play with this to kind of get the scale we want. We're gonna start at 1.05 for the sake of keeping it easy. We're gonna use a power node, and maybe with like an exponent of like 10 or something to start. Let's see if that affects. Well, here, if you start previewing this, that's not going to do much because it's such a small number. Then that, you can see that, okay, now we're starting to get to the top of our sphere. And so the idea is that you have this set up. We'll clamp it just for the sake of being clamped. And then we're just going to add that on top of our planet shader. This is already looking weird, but you know how it looks actually. So we'll do an add. This ad brought to you by Mountain Dew, Liberty Chill. Just kidding. Okay. See if it worked. In theory, this should work, and that's how fast we can do this. Okay, oh, we zoomed. So you can see we're getting a white effect on top. It's kind of blurry, so if you want to play with these values to kind of get a better effect, don't like how that's all not lined up. Maybe like 40. See what happens. Okay, so that kind of tightens it up. But like, let's say you wanted there to be like more covered in snow. I don't know, maybe let's play with this, see what happens. Will that make it bigger or smaller? That makes it bigger. Okay, that's what I thought. So yeah, that's like a really super simple, easy, like you can do that in a couple minutes to get a decent snow cap effect. You're gonna want to like add noise, use like a texture sample, but we're not gonna go super deep dive on that. So in order to do the bottom, this is gonna be a nice little trick. I'm gonna move this out of the way. We're just going to, here, and you can do Shift A. Ooh, wrong thing, Shift W I meant. That'll just take that out of there. Okay, so yeah, what we're going to do is we want to just take this and we're going to multiply it by -1. That's what we want to do. Bow, bow, bow. Bing bong. Okay, so we're just doing this exact same thing. We might be able, I doubt it can take 2 inputs. Can it take 2 inputs? Okay, I didn't think so. That'd be kind of cool, but also a mess. And then we're just going to copy and paste this whole thing here. Might as well do the whole thing. It's not super efficient in terms of instructions, but this is probably the least of our worries right now. So let's go like that. Add these back together so we'll get the top. I'm going to add it before here just for my brain. So it's like compartmentalized. So we got the snow ice caps. So let's go like this. Call this ice caps. Try to stay somewhat organized in our spaghetti nightmare. Speaking of spaghetti nightmare, there's something called a reroute node. So like if you wanted to, what, reroute, add reroute node? No, that's just a pin. What's the other one? What's it called? Is it not? Named reroute declaration. Okay, there we go. Call this like ice caps. You don't have to do this. This is just something I wanted to show you. And you wanted to just have this like over here, and then you're like, oh, somewhere in my million bajillion noodle labyrinth, I could do ice caps and call that, I don't know why I try to drag that in there, and then just plug that into there. And that just takes this output, and it's like a teleport, just spits it over there. So that's something you can do. It's a little bonus tip for you guys for following along if you are. Okay. So hit save. I need a faster CPU. Okay, and we got, should see, I said we should, there it is. Okay, it's just dark. It's in there. It's under there. Okay, so we got ice on the bottom and on the top. And we probably want to expose those to some parameters. Hold on, reopen that. And the ones that we're using mostly, let's use a scalar. This is not a scalar parameter. I think it's S. Yup. Okay. Calls like ice cap size. Capsize. Don't capsize your boat. And default value of 1.05 or something. And then we want our exponent to also have a scalar. Excuse me, I just burped. Blech. What should we call this? Like frost strength, ice strength, ice fall off. Sure. Let's default 40 for now, but you can make it stronger or weaker. Booyakasha. The Ali G show. Okay, what do we got? We got ice cap in our material shader. Next steps, we're gonna totally get rid of this stuff that we did, and I hate to do that to you because I hate having to repeat myself, but we can't work with this the way we want to. At least I can't for my purposes, and I'm guessing you're gonna have similar wants and desires and needs from your stuff as well. Which, of course, it's never simple, because it always has to be trying to trick the engine into doing something that you want it to do when it's built to do something entirely different, which is why we can't use landscapes. We got to use a dynamic mesh because we want dynamic mesh stuff. But then we can't use the terrain brush on the dynamic mesh because it's not a landscape. Blah, 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 blah. Pretty soon we're going to end up moving everything to the procedural content generation graph, I'm guessing. We're just going to build the whole thing in PCG. But until then, we're going to move it to blueprints. I'm kind of just yapping right now. So now that we got our instance, we should see ice cap size and ice cap fall off, or just ice fall off. And we could put this like 1.15 if you want, just to play with that. Lowered fall off means it's like more softer blur, versus 100 would be like more firm. Personally, I don't really like how it just is kind of totally solid white. Like, we'd like to see some texture in there, and you can do that on your own time. Add some noise. You can use T for texture. You could get like some nice snow sample or something. Right now we just have noise. If you use a texture coordinate, a coordinate, you can plug this into UVs if you want and go into tiling and hit like, I don't know, 4x4, and then just like either add or multiply this to your ice caps. Like, if you multiply it, you're gonna have holes with this sound because of the black, but you could like, there's things to do. I'm not gonna get into that. That's not the point. The point is, we got a nice, easy, fast, controllable ice system, ice cap system, and you can just freeze the whole planet if you want. But I don't like the, we want noise on that edge, don't we? We want noise on the edge. Yes, we do. But we'll come back to that later. For now, we just want to get the ball rolling in the right direction. So that's it for this part of the tutorial. I'm either gonna move into the next part on the same video or make a separate video. I'll have to see how we're doing on time. This might be just a short one, and I'll do the next one later. All right, peace. Subscribe if you haven't. I got more videos on the way. We're doing procedural stuff, building planets.